Thank you very much. It's really a privilege and an honor to be here to speak to you. I thank Pastor Carl Johnson for inviting me here. I invite the men of the Band of Brothers group for grabbing me at the same-sex marriage debate last week and inviting me here. It's really a privilege. As my introducer said, my name is Ed Mechmann. I'm an attorney. Please don't hold that against me. I work for the Archdiocese of New York. I work in the Family Life Respect Life office, and I've done that for about 15 years. And the primary work that I do there is I do public policy advocacy on the cause of human life and on behalf of marriage and family. Here in New York State, that's an uphill battle. I want to talk to you a little bit tonight about same-sex unions. Okay? I have to start out, I guess, a little bit with a quibble over the title of the event, Defending Traditional Marriage. That's not what we're doing here. We're defending marriage. There's marriage, and there's not marriage. Right? There's not traditional marriage and updated, new, improved marriage. Right? It's marriage or it's not. Now, we'll use the word marriage here tonight, but you understand what I'm saying then, okay? Marriage in our society has been under attack for decades. This latest manifestation of the attack is same-sex marriage, but it's a symptom of an underlying problem. Right? The fact that our culture, in many ways, does not believe in marriage anymore. Real marriage, we know, right? Man, woman, children, right? It's about the future. It's about laying a foundation for society. It's about investing in the future. It's about the other. It's about being a gift of myself to others. It is not about me.
Amen.
See, I'm not used to that. I talk to Catholic audiences. I don't. Okay. You know, phony marriage, right, is what our culture has been pushing upon us for decades. Phony marriage is basically anybody and anything goes. It is all about me. It's not about the kids. It's not about the future. It's not about society. It's about my satisfaction. It's not about the other. It is inherently unstable because at its foundation, it is selfish. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. This is the latest front in a long, long battle. This is the battle that God has given to our generation. And there's a reason for that, to test our fidelity to Him. Okay? So we have to fight this battle. Right now, there's a bill before the New York State Legislature. It's called the Marriage Equality Act. What a nice name for a bill. Marriage equality. How can anybody be against that? It's a very simple bill. It's only 2 pages at most in the legislative record there. It basically says that marriage won't be invalid just because it happens to be between people of the same sex. Simple, right? Well, no, not simple at all. One of the arguments that you very often hear about this in support of this bill is, well, if you let us get married in this way, how will that affect your marriage? How will that affect you? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit from the legal perspective, and I'm going to explain to you how this bill will affect every single one of us in many, many ways. Okay? Everybody and everybody's marriage, everybody's business, everybody's school, everybody's life will be affected by this law. It will create a dramatic change in the law and the culture of New York State, and everybody will be affected. You know, some of the foundational principles of our society are things like, you know, the government can't force people to believe things or to act against their beliefs, right? That's a fundamental principle of our society. You know, if you don't believe in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, you don't have to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. That's the law, okay? That's a basic principle. It's also a basic principle that when I speak, the government can't take sides between my speech and someone else's speech just because they agree with me or disagree with me. The government's got to stay out of that. That's free speech, right? Even if I do something stupid like burn a flag, the government can't take positions on that. Another foundational principle is that the state cannot interfere in the internal operations of churches. That's for many reasons why our ancestors came over here from Europe, was because they wanted to be able to worship freely and to run their own affairs and not have the government tell them he can be a minister, he can't be a minister, and things like that, right? And also the government can't take sides between religions. The government can't say, well, this faith over here is okay and that faith over there is not okay because we agree with them and not with them. Again, very simple foundational principles. Everybody should agree with these. Well, you know what? If the Marriage Equality Act is passed, every single one of those principles will be at risk in our country, in our state, in this community. Every single one of them. And I'll show you how in a second. The whole idea of the Marriage Equality Act, again, you would think, oh, it's just between an individual and the government, right? I can go down to the town hall, wherever that is here in whatever town I'm in, and sign the license and find some minister who will be willing to raise my right hand and I'll be married, right? How does that affect anybody else? Well, if you're a religious organization, if you're a religious individual, and you disagree with that, it will affect you. About 10 years ago, Yeshiva University, right, big Jewish university down in New York City, was sued because they restricted housing to married couples, right? Men, women, married couples, right? They were sued because they did not allow man-man cohabiting couples. It affected them, right? Religious individuals who run businesses, right? You don't want to do the wedding photography. It's the famous case here in the United States because this has actually happened. A religious person didn't want to do wedding photography for a lesbian couple. Got sued under a state non-discrimination law. Some doctors out west who didn't want to provide fertility assistance to a same-sex couple. Sued. Okay? It'll affect individuals. They'll be forced to comply, right? By being brought before a court. Basically, what will happen to a lot of individuals is that they will have the words forced out of their mouths that this phony marriage is the same thing as a real marriage. Here's how. Anybody work for a company, right? If they work in the human resources department, for instance, or if they're a boss of a company, and your company provides benefits to married couples, you will find at some point that a same-sex couple will come in looking for marriage benefits. And if you don't sign that document saying this marriage is the same thing as real marriage, your company will be sued by the individual and probably by the state. They'll force the word